I've really been liking Robin more and more as the story progresses, but this chapter for me really just kind of kicked it up a notch in that department. One Piece, Chapter 265, Pirate Robin versus Heavenly Warriors Commander Yama.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the ball-tingling, poetry-inspiring, blow-job-level amazingness that is One Piece. Now, that was actually submitted by a subscriber, Devil's Bitch 1000, and anybody who wants me to say anything in particular at the beginning of these One Piece reviews, feel free to go and leave it in the comments down below. The only thing that I have to say about that one is blowjob level amazingness. I've been there and back a few times. I'm in my mid-30s now. Yes, I am married, but certainly been on the receiving end of a few of those. And they're not all the same. Let's just put it that way. So they're not all amazing. There's some that are subpar, and there's some that are just average, and there's some that are just downright awful. So I'll just leave it at that. But anyway, we had our last chapter of Course Sauce with finishing volume. What the hell are we? 27? 28? 29 we're on now. My God, we just finished volume 28, and we're starting volume 29. Of course, the end of volume 28 really just saw a number of different things happening, kind of splitting it amongst several different groups. We were kind of left hanging on a few different fronts over there, and I also made a mistake too. God forbid. When I talked about Conis and Pagaya, I mentioned that I thought Rocky was there as well. Rocky, the other girl, but it's actually just Aisa. I somehow got it mixed up and maybe thought Conis was maybe I just thought that she was there just because they always seem to be together and it seems to be like a motherly figure to her. But anyway, so the chapter starts off, though, with Nami actually going in and writing this waiver back and saying, here, I'm going to return this to you now. And you know, just talking with Conis and Pagaya and what they're going to do. And we find out a little bit about Aisa, about Aisa. And she actually has the power, the power of mantra. She can hear the voices and everything in her head, and maybe because she's a child or what have you, she just maybe doesn't control it as well. I'm not really quite sure. But really, this whole scene that they have is a couple pages long, kind of goes to serve and show us that she actually can kind of see and feel what's going on, right, with this power of mantra. And it's kind of cool because they're talking about what they're going to do, and Nami's like, yeah, we're still going to go around and dock the ship at the coast and everything else. I'm sure they're there by now, and I'm sure the four of them are unstoppable when they're together. And she, of course, is referring to Zoro and Chopper and Luffy and Robin. And then Aisa goes and says, there's no group of four anywhere on the island. And she's like, what? You know, and she's like, no, no more than two. You know, I would know, I would feel it, right? And that's when we find out a little bit about the mantra power and the voices in her head, and basically this also goes to show that Aisa, she cares a lot. They actually found her. They came upon her. She was on a waiver. A waiver had broke down. Pagaya and Conis had come upon her. The Skyfish was attacking her. Naturally, they helped her and saved her. You know, they don't care. They don't discriminate that it was a Shandian or whatever. They don't care. It's just a kid that needed help, right? But anyway, she's upset because she can feel people dying all around her, you know, as this combat rages on in Upper Yard. So it was really kind of neat, but also a little bit saddening as well. So then it goes and it shows us briefly Luffy down in his cave, and he lost his backpack, and there's no good fruit down here. It's rotting, you know, everything's rotten, but he just wants to have some breakfast, and he's down in this underground cave, ruins, whatever. Also shows Zoro, and Zoro's being followed by one of those giant south birds, and things like, Joe, and he's like, damn it, I already gave you all the food I had. Just leave me alone now. So I just thought that was kind of funny. And then it goes and it takes us briefly to one of the other Shandorian warriors who goes and thinks he gets the drop on Enel, and he sees Enel, and it talks about, you know, the 81 the original combatants that were in this game, you know, and after 3 hours, Enel's prediction was there'd only be 5 left standing. And I called him a pompous ass when he made that prediction because I don't know anything about the character. And when I first see somebody that goes and predicts what's going to happen in the future, regardless of his mantra power, I think he's a pompous ass. Simple as that. However, there's obviously something to his prediction, his foreshadowing, his vision, if you will. And that's obviously going to come down to it. Now, when we're left at the end of last volume, there was 25 left standing. This Shandorian warrior thinks he gets the drop on Enel. Enel winds up appearing behind him, you know, and goes and winds up obviously frying him and killing him with his, now we know, well, now it's been revealed that he has this power of electricity. He is lightning. And he winds up taking, and not to be confused with the lightning from Final Fantasy, he is the embodiment of lightning, and fancies himself to be a god too. So anyway, then it says 24 left, because obviously now there's one less. So the bulk of the chapter though, and from this point to the end, is really cool, and it really dives into what is becoming one of my favorite characters now, and that's Nico Robin. Number one, sexy as fuck. Okay, she just is. I don't know what it is about her. She does it for me. Okay, don't tell my wife, but she does it for me. Okay, on the fictional level of characters, I like her. Anyway, she of course was going toe-to-toe with Yama, and we saw briefly in the last chapter, even though she was kind of beaten and bloodied, she was trying to get him to stop destroying the runes and the hieroglyphs and everything else, and she did talk about how those that, forget about the past are doomed to repeat it and this and that. So what she did is she was running, and she's running, and she's running, that's where she's doing. She's trying to get away, and Yama's chasing after her. He's like, oh, you can't run away from me, and he's just this big, fat pile of shit, right? So he winds up catching up to her, and she finally gets far enough away from the ruins that, she's out in the open, right? And I like this, because in the last chapter, I think I asked questions about her powers and what the extent of them were and everything like that, and now we can see, okay? It's really, really cool. So she's just basically, she's just standing there, and he's like, oh, so, now are we far enough away from your stupid ruins? They're not even yours. And she's like, yeah, that's right. Ancient ruins and history, it belongs to nobody. But the point is that it's valuable, and she's trying to teach him a lesson, because he's stupid. So then she goes and she says to him, and she says, so no matter what, and basically she throws down her hat, right? And she's just getting ready to go. She's ready to tussle now, and she's just like, and no matter what you say, even when you ask for forgiveness, I won't forgive you. And he's just like, oh, ho, 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 I'm gonna come after you, right? And as he goes and he comes to barrel into her with his just jumping fat-ass fucking mountain smash that he's gonna do, she goes and grabs his ass with a series of hands in midair and goes and pulls him against the tree and is kind of hanging him there. And she's like, oh, God, he's heavy, So then he goes and he's like, oh, you're pitiful and this and that. And he comes at her and he's going to do the tenfold mountain axe. And he comes spinning with that, and he's spinning and he's flying at her, right? And she goes and she winds up grabbing his eyes, and so he can't see anything. And then while she does that, she goes and her hands, you can see, come out of, looks like his pelvis and crotch area, which is kind of funny. And instead of going and punching him in the dick like I would have done, she goes and takes his impact dials that he has for this, or his axe dials for this tenfold mountain axe crap that he does, and she turns them around backwards. So as he goes to go and fire him off with her, he smashes himself into a freaking tree and just, and oh, it's great, just blood everywhere, and I love it, because this is really just a big pile of shit. I don't really like this guy. But anyway, so it's kind of cool because you get to go and see that. So he gets smashed into the tree. And then you go and you see her. She goes and pulls up his, look at how much bigger he is. He could eat her. He could literally eat her like it was a snack. And she just goes, the site you destroyed was a priceless treasure. History always repeats itself. But we can never return to the past. You don't seem to understand that, So she's teaching him a lesson here, right? So then he's just like, I understand. I won't do it again. Please forgive me. And then I love it because just a few minutes ago she said she wouldn't forgive. I won't forgive you. And then him over there and he's like, oh, then I'll just have to kill you. Ha 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 ha. And I love this guy because he's trying to go and play bashful like he's, like he can't get up and everything. So he goes to come after her and everything like that. And he's just like, what? My fingers. And she's got arms coming out of him, twisting his fingers around. Then hands batting him back and back and back. And he's like, what? Stop. Where am I going? He's rolling, right? She's rolling. And he's, stop. Where are you taking me? Stop. She goes and throws his ass right off a freaking cliff. Oh, man, I like Robin. And he's going, which is great. The chapter's going to end, and she's like, it's too late, And then I love this. He's like, oh, I can't breathe, and then he winds up going and falling in. It looks like he goes and falls into, straight into one of the milky roads or maybe the swamp or something like that, because he's sitting here with his head just jammed into the ground, And then I don't know what this is all about, because she says clutch, and then she says, you do such horrible things. So I don't know if she's got maybe a little double personality going on there, a little Sybil thing. Alls I know is that Robin is sexified times 10 for me now, because she actually, it's the first time we really got to see her, at least in a good role, being part of the Straw Hats, where she really did something and actually fought a formidable enemy, So it's a very, very cool thing for me, and I certainly enjoyed it. And that's how the chapter ends, with her, of course, defeating Yama pretty handily, too. So, back to my, last chapter question about her and her powers and everything. Obviously, a lot of the things I was thinking about she can do, she just wasn't willing to in the tight space that was the runes of Shandora, because she didn't want any more damage being caused than, than obviously was, was already being caused by this big fat tub of shit. So anyway, so my chapter question for you is then, what are your thoughts, though, on Robin just as a crew member now? I know she kind of just sort of hangs in her own little thing. She just sort of does what she does. She's obviously a lot older than the rest of the crew, you know, by probably about 10 years or so, I would say 10, 12 years. But what are your thoughts on Robin and her character, I guess, at this point? Certainly, for me, it was a turning point because of the fact that she was, you know, she showed herself as not just a valuable asset, like when she helped to save Usopp and everything like that with when Luffy reached down through the cloud zone when they were in the White Sea. But she really has helped and become, as far as I'm concerned, this helps to cement her as a formidable ally. So what are your thoughts on Robin as this formidable ally? And I'll just leave it at that, I guess, even though I've already been a little too long-winded. Leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation.
If you like cowboy hats, floral print, or tall women in general, go on over to my Facebook or Instagram page and take a look at more of my drawings.